Three-way league at the top of the table over in Germany, that's right, with champions Bayern joined by two others. Who are they? Well, we'll tell you next. That's right, folks, back once again with another video. Today we take a look at match number 3 over in the Bundesliga, and we'll get into it in just 1 second. If you know where you've been, smash your subscribe. You want subscribe for Blackburn Rovers, Champions League, Bundesliga, all that under one brewski. That's right, Bayern currently top the pops, but they're joined in good company by Eintracht Frankfurt. But who is that third team? Well, I'll tell you in just 1 second. If you know where you're in, hit the old subscribe and a big shout out to the members and the patrons. You know who you are. But we're going to take a little look at match number 3 in just 1 second. But before that, recapping match number 2. So sit tight, hold on. Big shout out members, big shout out patrons, but let's get into it. Recapping the results right here, right now. So here we go. That's right. My predictions on the left, the real deal was on the right. So let's get into it then, shall we? Of course, we have Hamburg picking up a 2-0 loss to St. Pauli. Goodness gracious me. Leipzig bounced back with a 2-0 win over Heidenheim. I went with a 2-1 win. Werder Bremen with a draw against Leverkusen. Of course, I should have already opened with that. Erik ten Hag sacked. That's right. 3-3. That one. I went with a draw. Stuttgart with a 1-0 win over Mönchengladbach. I went with a 2-1 win. Hoffenheim with a 3-1 loss to Frankie. I went with a 3-0 win. Augsburg with a 3-2 loss to Bayern. I went with a 3-0 win. Wolfsburg Mainz 1-1. I went with a 1-1. Dortmund with a 3-0 win over Union Berlin. I went with a 3-1 win. And Köln with a 4-1 win over Freiburg. I went with a 1-0 win. So I'm just brilliant. That's what I am, guys. I'm just brilliant in regards to the picks. So just the one wrong for me, the rest perfect. And realistically, I should give you an update on the Super Bowl, but I can't. Anyway, this is the table as of right now. 2 wins out of 2 for Bayern and Eintracht Frankfurt. FC Köln are the third team. Going down, Freiburg, Heidenheim, Werder Bremen are also in a bit of trouble, as are my boys Mönchengladbach. Like I said, I'm not going to give you an update on the Super Bowl, but that's the link right here right now. Hopefully the next time we see you, I will give you an update with that, and we'll have a better link for you guys to join. It's still early days. Get involved, get predicting free, and see if you can predict me, because I just, look at that. No one's going to top that score that I just got there. Perfect, nearly. Anyway, these are the next round of games, and we're going to get into it right here, right now. Of course, with all kicking off this coming Friday. It is Bayern Leverkusen, of course, managerless at this moment in time, taking on a Frankfurt side under Dino Topmullers, coming out to the Bay Arena with Andreas Undrich taking the coaching reins right there for Bayer Leverkusen. And I played, there'll be the 57th time that these two sides have played. Previous 56, 32 wins for Leverkusen, 16 wins for Frankfurt. There's been 8 draws. Leverkusen coming into this just 1 win in the last 4 matches up against Frankfurt, who've won 3 on the bounce. Of course, coming into this, they last played at Bayer Arena, 2-1 as it was back in October 2024. Leverkusen have won 5 on the bounce against Frankfurt, but they're on to pretty woeful start so far, with back-to-back games without a win. Meanwhile, Frankfurt, of course, kicking ass and taking names, sitting in second spot right now. Following on a win from Bremen on opening day and a 3-1 win away to Hoffenheim last time around. The odds for this one, confidence is shot in Leverkusen, but I think they're going to get something out of this. I've gone with a 2-1 win for Bayer Leverkusen against the run of play, perhaps, and maybe Erik ten Hag going is just a massive breath of fresh air for the players by Leverkusen. Meanwhile, we're going to go to their next games on Saturday, the 13th of April. We've got Freiburg taking on Stuttgart, of course, coming at you the Europa Park Stadion. Freiburg under Julian Schuster on back-to-back defeats. They sit at 18th right now, no points for them. Up against Stuttgart, Sebastian Hoeneß, who've won 3 on the bloody bounce in all shapes and all sizes. They played 53 times since 1993, 19 wins Freiburg, 28 wins for Stuttgart, 6 draws between the two sides. They last played at Freiburg, 3-1 win as it was, way back in August 2024. Goodness gracious me. We have, of course, the last time they played, Köln beat Freiburg 4-1. In fact, Freiburg have actually conceded 7 goals in the last 2 games combined. Meanwhile, Stuttgart picking up a 1-0 win over Mönchengladbach last time around to keep them, well, get them to get their first win in the Bundesliga campaign. The bookies odds for this one, they'll give it to Stuttgart on this one. I don't know about that. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win for Freiburg. They'll bounce back. They should be up there. Should be competing for those top 6 spots over in Germany, and I'm sure they're going to get their first win this campaign. Meanwhile, Mainz against Leipzig, coming at you over at the Miwa Arena. Bo Henriksen, the coach there, is 13th right now in the table with just the 1 point for the campaign. Of course, coming at you against Leipzig, bounce back for them. Of course, 1-1, lost 1 so far this campaign under Oli Werner. They played 18 times, these two clubs, since 2016. 6 wins for Mainz, 8 wins for Leipzig. There's been 4 draws between the two sides. They last played in Mainz, 2-0 wins as it was for Leipzig back in October 2024. In fact, the home sides have won once in the last 6. That's when Mainz beat Leipzig at the Miwa Arena back in November 2023. Mainz on the back of that 1-1 score away to Wolfsburg. Leipzig on the back of that 2-0 win at home to Heidenheim. The bookies' odds for this one find it tight. They do give it to Mainz, but I'm going with the Leipzig victory to make it back-to-back wins. Meanwhile, Wolfsburg, they're taking on Köln, of course, coming at you at the Volkswagen Arena. That's right, Wolfsburg and Paul Simonis. They sit 6 right now, 4 points over possible 6. Unbeaten the last 3, all shapes and sizes. Up against Köln under Lukas Kvancnic, 6 wins on the bounce for them in all shapes and all sizes. And they played Wolfsburg 37 times since 1997. 17 wins Wolfsburg, 9 wins Köln. There's been 11 draws between the two sides, including a draw when these two sides last played at the Wolfsburg Volkswagen Arena back in January 2024. In fact, the home side hasn't won this game since Wolfsburg beat Köln back in April 2021. Wolfsburg on the back of that draw against Mainz, Köln, picking up a 4-1 win over Freiburg most recently. The bookies will give it to Wolfsburg, though, and I think I'm going the same way. 2-0 winners. Wolfsburg taking the points. Union Berlin, hoping to have a better season this season, up against Hoffenheim at the Alten Forsterei. Berlin under Stefan Baumgart right now. They sit 10th with 3 points for the name, up against Hoffenheim in 9th, also 3 points. They have played each other 12 times since 2019. 6 wins for Berlin, 4 wins for Hoffenheim. There's been 2 draws between the two sides. They last played at this venue, 2-1 winners it was, back in September 2024. Union Berlin have actually won 3 on the bounce against Hoffenheim. And they're coming into so on the back of a defeat against Dortmund. Hoffenheim with a defeat against Frankfurt. Tight one on the bookies here. They can't really decide. They lean towards Union Berlin, as do I, with a 2-1 win. Narrow win, but just enough to get over the line. Heidenheim, they're up against it, taking on Dortmund this coming match day. That's right, over at the Volteth Arena. Heidenheim under Frank Schmidt. They got no points so far for the season. Up against Dortmund, Nico Kovac, they got 4 points so far for a possible 6. They played 5 times in 2014, 3 wins for Dortmund, nothing for Heidenheim. There's been 2 draws between these two sides. They last played over at Heidenheim. 2-1 winners it was for Dortmund, who did the double over Heidenheim last season with a convincing win in Dortmund and a squeaky bum one against Heidenheim in Heidenheim. Coming into this, the hosts on the back of a 2-0 loss to Leipzig. They did play a friendly in this pre-season here, in the break here, and they won that one. Dortmund on the back of that 3-0 win over Union Berlin. The odds here, Dortmund should take it. I'm going that way as well. 3-0 winners, leaning with the bookies on this one. Let's go Bayern then, as they take on the returning Hamburg at the Allianz Arena. Of course, Vinny Company's boys are top of the pops. 6 wins of a possible 6 up against Hamburg and the Merlin Ponzens. 1 point for them this far this season. They played at Bayern 62 times since 1992. Bayern have won 40 of them. Hamburg have won 9 of them. There's been 13 draws. They last played at Bayern. It was a 6-0 win way back in March 2018. Bayern on the back of a successive 3-2 wins. Beaten Wiesbaden in the Cup. They also beat Augsburg in the Bundesliga most recently. Hamburg, they're on the back of that 2-0 loss at home to St. Pauli. They are not fancied at all by the bookies, and they're not fancied by me. I'm going to go with a 4-1 win. Bayern taking the points and moving the chains. Into Sonntag we go. St. Pauli up against Augsburg. That's right, in the Millennium Stadion. St. Pauli under Alexander Blezin. They're unbeaten in the last 6 games. They sit 5th with 4 points for them. Up against Augsburg under Sandro Wagner. Back-to-back defeats in all shapes and all sizes. But they have got to 1 win out of 2 in the Bundesliga. They must have played a game in between the Bundesliga matches. Anyway, they played 8 times, these two clubs, since 2007. 2 wins St. Pauli, 4 wins Augsburg, 2 draws between the two sides. They last played over at St. Pauli. It was a 1-1 scoreline back in February 2025. St. Pauli on the back of that 2-0 win above Hamburg. Augsburg, that 3-2 narrow loss against Bayern. The bookies, though, will give it to St. Pauli at their gaff, as am I. Going to go with the bookies once again, 2-1 winners to wrap it up. And then finally, my boys Mönchengladbach taking on Werder Bremen at the Borussia Park. Mönchengladbach and Gerardo Serino, 14th for the table, just the 1 point for them so far. And against Bremen and the Horst Stefan, just the 1 point for them so far as well. They played 62 times since 1992. 25 wins for Gladbach, 23 wins for Bremen. There's been 14 draws between these two sides. They last played at Mönchengladbach. It was a 4-1 win for Gladbach back in November 2024, who did the double over Bremen last season, scoring 8 goals in the 2 matches. Of course, in fact, they're unbeaten against them in the last 4 or 5 competitive matches, should we say. Gladbach, though, on the back of a 1-0 loss to Stuttgart. Bremen drawing with Leverkusen, of course. A bit of a fight back in that game. Bookies will give it to Gladbach. Got to give it to them as well. 2-1 winners. And to take the points and move the bloody chains. And if I'm right, which I hope so, it'll look like this, guys. It'll be Bayern, tip of the top of the table on their own. Dortmund will be in 2nd, Wolfsburg in 3rd, St. Pauli in 4th. Going down, Heidenheim, Hamburg, and Werder Bremen at the moment. But that is what I think. Make sure you get in what you think here in the Prediction League, and we'll be back up to date with all of that next time around. Of course, subscribe, smash the like. We'll see you soon whenever we return. But until then, we are done.